Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name.
Hi, thanks for tuning in to Armor of God again, everybody. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us here. So hopefully you will learn a lot from what I've put together for you in this video. And if it isn't too much of a hassle, please share this video on your social media to help spread the message. Well, as you know very well by now, I love listening to Father Daniel Reehil. And recently, I've released videos that are over 20 to 40 minutes long, but some of you requested that I release shorter videos, and so that's what I'm going to do with this video, and instead of a compilation of different priests, this time I'd like to share a compilation of Father Reehil instead on the subject of spiritual warfare. If you've been with this channel for quite a while, you've probably heard a couple of these clips. But there are also, I think, that you haven't heard. Some of it is going to be very short, but a couple of these will be slightly longer. In any case, I hope all of you will learn a lot from this compilation. So let's get right down to it and listen to the first clip in this compilation.
When you have, not all of our emotions are ours, and you can be experiencing emotions that come out of the blue. Like if you wake up and you're in a good mood and suddenly you just go into a foul mood for no good reason. So nothing has happened. Nobody cut you off on the road. Your toaster didn't burn your breakfast. There's no good reason. Suddenly you're in a bad mood. That to me is a sign that's not your emotion, that's a demon poking at you.
And one of my favorite parts, whenever I listen to these priests, not only Father Reehil here, but every other priest that I've listened to before, I love it whenever they share stories with us, especially one like this.
I lost my phone, and I was sitting in adoration when I realized I didn't have it, and I was just looking around, and it wasn't in my pew, and I thought, wow, where's the phone? So as soon as somebody showed up where I could step out of adoration, I went and looked in the office, I looked in the sacristy, it was gone. Looked in the car, and I said, wow, the phone is gone. So I need the phone to help your people, Lord. So if you could show me where the phone is, that'd be great. And I went back to praying, and I had in my mind, I could see sort of from a heavenly perspective, looking down on my house, on the deck outside. Behind the deck, there's these bushes that border the railing, and under the bushes was the phone. And I'm thinking, am I making this up in my head? So I go home, I go out on the deck, I go down the steps, under the deck, under the bushes, and there's the phone. Now, I didn't know the phone was there. So clearly that was a divine revelation. Here's your phone, go get it. And that even makes for a better experience, because then you're like, wow, you're really 100% with me here, and even in the little things like finding my phone.
For the next clip, Father Reehil was asked this question: can demons manifest with smells? And if so, is there any suggestion for us to combat this?
Yeah, smells. So can the saints, by the way. So it's not uncommon. The demons leave behind foul odors. So sulfur, rotting, decaying flesh, things like that. Whereas sometimes if you're praying to Saint Therese, you'll get roses. You could even smell roses. Sometimes when Padre Pio is in the room, people are known to sometimes smell his tobacco, or Joseph lilies, who knows. But yeah, they have powers we don't have in this life, so they can do that. What if you sense there's something in your house that's malevolent, then you want to get rid of it. So I would call a priest to have your house be blessed and exorcised.
And Father Reehil also shared another story, this time about his friend who had demons in his room and what the friend did to resolve the problem.
The Gregorian chant, very powerful, very powerful. And yes, when you play it in your homes, it's an irritant to demons. They don't like it, and they don't want to be around it. In fact, I had a friend in seminary, Thomas Gilbert, who is now a religious Carmelite. He had issues in his bedroom. He was a very holy young man, and he had demons in his room. And so he took holy oil and marked the walls with a big cross on each wall. And as he was getting to the third wall, he heard this enormous noise happening, and he saw the oil just be sucked into the wall like supernaturally and disappear. And so then he had to get a priest to exorcise his room. But before the priest would come, he wound up putting on Gregorian chant and noticed that they left the room when he did that. So he played that in his room 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until he was ordained. And it kept them at bay. So it is a very good and healthy thing to do, as is praise and worship music. They don't like that either.
In the next clip, Father Reehil was answering this question, and I quote, "Do you get a certain feeling when you encounter a dark spirit? I walked into a crystal shop the other day and was immediately compelled to get out."
Yes, not always, but often. Particularly if it's a really dark and heavy spirit, a high-powered demon. Um, not just me, I would say most people in a state of grace would immediately have their spidey senses go off. There's a problem here. Be aware of the presence of this evil. Even when I was away from the church, I had I can remember two experiences. One, I was picking up a friend from the airport, and it was later at night, probably around midnight, and we were driving on the highway, and there weren't many cars, and we this car kind of pulled up next to us to the right and was like tracking our same speed limit. So we kind of both looked over at the same time, and we literally saw the demon in this person driving, and it kind of lunged at us. And we both screamed at the same time, and then I floored it, and we made it out of there. And that was how I knew it wasn't just me. It was both of us at the same time, like screamed from the horror of this thing. Another time I was walking down into the subway steps late at night, and I looked down the platform and saw a man who looked up at me. And again, it was this demonic, like yellow eyes staring at me, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I knew, get out of here now. So the answer is yes. So particularly if you're praying, it works the same way with holy people. When you're in the presence of great holiness, you can sense it. You can sense it in the room. I remember once when I was a religious life, we were at an event, and we had walked into this room. It was just kind of a prayer room. And this very holy, well, we didn't know who it was. It was a nun who walked in the room, and we all just felt the presence of God enter the room, and we all looked towards the door to see, like, is Jesus walking in? But it was a nun, and she just had a tremendous amount of holiness upon her, and people who've met Mother Teresa, John Paul II, all say the same thing. When you're in the presence of these people, you feel the presence of God. So it works both ways.
You've probably heard Father Reehil sharing this case before, a boy who thinks he's a girl. And at one point, the demon even shrieked, "I'm not a boy." What got me thinking, though, does this mean that everyone who's thinking they're women when in fact they're not? Or women who think they're men, which we see happening a lot in our society these days, can they possibly be healed the same way too? That's just what I thought about when I was putting this video together.
Okay, so what we would call this is same-sex attraction. I don't like to label people as gay or any of the other terms that the alphabet people use. And this happens from time to time when somebody, usually from what I've seen through experience, is that it comes out of some kind of a wound. This is what I've noticed in the people that I know who have this attraction. And for men or boys, it's usually from the father that they didn't receive something they were supposed to receive, or they felt rejected in some way. Sometimes even in the womb. The spirit of a person knows what's happening, even though the consciousness of the person doesn't fully comprehend what's going on, but the spirit knows. And so when, sometimes if the father wants to abort the baby in the womb, the child can pick up on that in the spirit and realize that the father has rejected them. And so they grow up not knowing why they're looking for love in all the wrong places from men because of something that happened. And I'm not saying that's 100% of the time, but it is 100% not genetic. It is environment, because identical twins have been studied, and one will be heterosexual and one will be homosexual. Well, that doesn't happen if you're genetically the same. So it has to be through the environment, through a learned reaction, so to speak. But it's not, I don't mean learned in the sense that they've sought knowledge about this, just that something has happened. We had a case in Omaha when I was in religious life of a man that was convinced he was a woman. This is way back. We're talking 20 years ago. And the mother did not want to acknowledge him that way, but said, listen, if you go on a retreat and an 8-day retreat with this religious community, and you still feel you're a woman, then I will accept it. So he came, and we prayed with him every day, and we took him to prayer with prayer teams praying for him. We were lifting him up, asking the Lord how to pray for him. And it kept coming back to the Father, the Father, the Father. And we didn't know what this meant. So the lead on the prayer team called his mother and said, "What are you not telling us about this boy's father, this young man's father?" And she started to cry, and she got very upset. She said, "I didn't want to say anything, but he doesn't know, but I got pregnant before I got married, and that man left me, and so somebody else wanted to marry me, so they married me, right very quickly before I had the baby, who was this man. And then they had another child after that, they had a little baby daughter. And unconsciously, that father favored the daughter because that was his own biological child. And the boy picked up on it subconsciously. And so he, in his subconscious, thought, if I ever want to be loved by my father, I have to be a girl. And that's what he was telling himself. So we had to go into, we had to take authority over lies and deceit and sexual confusion. And then we brought him through a meditation of God forming him in the womb, and how we took him from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. When we got to his genitals, the demons shrieked and said, "No, I'm not a boy." And so we cast that demon out, and we went back through the meditation, and the young man received it and left the retreat comfortable in his own skin that he was in fact a man. And he went on to get married and have kids and live a healthy life. So the long story, short end of it is, pray for him to come into the fullness of the truth of who God made him to be. Simple. Fullness of the truth of who God made him to be, out of love for him.
And of course, one of the reasons why I love listening to Father Reehil is because he talks a lot about the problems that are taking place in Hollywood, just like in this clip right here.
There's a movie called The Great Warning, and it's about one scriptwriter's perception of what this will look like if God does give a warning to the whole world by resetting our consciences. And you can find, if you just Google The Great Warning movie, it'll come up. Of course, these films, these Catholic and Christian films, are mostly being made now by private funding. They're going away from Hollywood. Hollywood, of course, does not make movies like this. They deform them into something hideous, like what they did to the movie about Noah. They portrayed Noah as a psychopath that wanted to kill his grandson. So bad. So what they've realized is we have to do this on our own if we're going to make it authentically Catholic or Christian. And so that's what they're doing.
As for the last clip of Father Reehil in this compilation, this clip of Father Reehil talking about the appropriate clothing for Mass. When I shared this clip before, many people disagreed with Father Reehil because they say, what about the poor who can't afford nice clothes to wear to Mass? But with all due respect, please listen carefully what Father Reehil is saying here.
Well, no. In reality, the Mass is the Mass is the Mass. It's the most holy thing that happens on the planet every day, by far. God comes down to the altar and ministers himself to you to make you holy. So just because it's a Wednesday or a Thursday doesn't mean you should be in any less appropriate clothing. Now, I understand if you're going to work and you have to wear your work clothes before you going, then that's what you have to do. But most people would dress appropriately for work. I can't imagine a job where you're coming in short shorts and a tank top, So I keep the church a comfortable 65 degrees, which forces people to appropriately cover their bodies, particularly the women, and they complain about it. But I say, you know what? You're all dressed appropriately, so praise the Lord. We should be dressing. If you were going to meet the King of England, if you were going to meet the Pope, would you dress up? I would hope most people would say yes. In fact, with the King of England, there's protocols. You can't even get in the room if you're not dressed appropriately. And at the basilicas in Rome, they had Swiss guards that would stand there and measure you up and down and say, you know what, your clothing is not appropriate. Go back and put something on and come back tomorrow. I mean, that's just the way it is. So Jesus made the King of England. Jesus made the Pope. He is over them. He's far above them. So if we're going to visit Jesus, you should be dressed appropriately. and give him the due respect that he has so incredibly earned by his gift to us on the cross, but just for being who he is in his very nature, he deserves the ultimate respect.
Well, that will be all for the video this time. And if you don't mind, I'm going to release the second part of this compilation of Father Reehil, just a collection of clips addressing different subjects, with each clip not being too long. In any case, I hope all of you enjoy this video and you've learned a lot from this compilation. If there's any suggestion or feedback, please let me know in the comments below. Anyway, if you like what we do and would like to support our works, I left a link to our PayPal donation in the description box below, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much everybody for your continuous support, contributions, and prayers. Until the next one, stay safe, stay healthy, and may God bless you.